Hi, Wolfpack fans. I'm Jeff Gravley.
I'm Tony Haynes.
And I'm Matt Chasnow.
And this is Pulse of the Pack. I'm Jeff Gravley, along with Andrew Sanders, the voice of women's basketball. And on Monday night, my friend, we saw a honey of a game as we record this in Reynolds Coliseum. All is quiet now, but that was not the case Monday night.
Just a classic game here in Reynolds with one of the best atmospheres in college basketball. And, you know, Wolfpack fans, we're spoiled by it. Certainly don't take it for granted. That was an incredible game, and the crowd matched it.
She's topping a couple of things, which I'll tell you. This is a dynamic, elite, fun-watching backcourt.
And they're going to be tested today by by the top defense in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Duke trying to do what hasn't been done, and that's an opponent coming in here and winning at Reynolds. Kara Lawson turned to her assistants and said, why? Brooks, with the spin off the window. And a flex for Zoe Brooks down the other end. On the run. Count the basket and a foul. Madison Hayes, assisted by Rivers. Another offensive rebound. Scramble for the loose ball. Good if it goes. Got it. Jackson for three. It's Duke again. Donovan dropping it off. Mayer hits the three. 12 in a row for Duke and their first lead of the night. Mayer, they've got numbers. They've got shooters. Jackson three. Buries another one. 17 in a row, and finally the timeout comes. James spins, hangs, hits. All day, baby. James steps back and answers the three. James. What a fake! It's James. Got the defender to blow by and lays it in. Jackson, short, comes back out to James. Isaiah looking for the lead and getting it. Her body control is amazing. Rivers, three ball, Hayes, no. Woo! Got it. Boy, did she pick the right time to play the game of her life. Play for K goes to NC State as they rally from a double-digit deficit and win it 89-83.
You know, I think part of those kind of games, like if you were to get up 20, the crowd kind of loses some of the momentum. But the way in which that game was, I mean, it was ebb and flow. It was like two heavyweight boxers going at each other. It looks like one's going to knock the other out, and then they come up off the ropes. Both teams did it, which I think added to the quality of the game.
Yeah, no doubt. NC State built a 10-point lead early, playing well. Things are going well. All of a sudden, Duke went on a 20-0 run.
That's unheard of.
Yeah, usually when you give up a 20-0 run, you're not celebrating at the end of the game. But NC State was able to turn things around and overcome a 13-point second-half deficit. And obviously, they made shots, they made a lot of plays, and the crowd had a good bit to do with that as well. Because when you start making those runs, you can feel it courtside. I mean, just the intensity of the game. And it was, again, we've seen a number of these types of games over the years, and it's the best home court advantage that you can imagine. It's 18 straight wins here at home.
It reminded me a little bit of a couple of years ago, the comeback against North Carolina here at Reynolds Coliseum. A few years ago, the comeback against Louisville here in Reynolds Coliseum. To me, it had that kind of flavor of the magnitude. You're playing a team that's ranked number 10 in the country, you're number 14, and it goes back and forth, and you're able to answer with a strong second half, particularly from Isaiah James, who just flat out balled. A new career high for her, 36 points. She almost went for 40. Had she made her free throws, I'm sure Wes is on her about that. If you made your free throws, you'd have gotten 40.
Yeah, most points by a Pac player I saw since 1998. I mean, 36 points is incredible. And to really put that in perspective, it's not just the 36 points, which by itself is impressive. It's to do it against Duke, which is the best defensive team in the ACC, maybe in the country. Duke was coming off a win over Georgia Tech. Their head coach, Nell Fortner, said Duke is probably the best defensive team in the country. So to put that in perspective, Duke was allowing under 50 points per game in ACC play and had held Pittsburgh to 31 points as a team on January 5th. And held Cal, who was ranked 18th at the time, right, top 25 team, held Cal to 38 points, okay? And that was January 16th, I believe. So just a few weeks later, Isaiah James scores 36 points by herself and 27 of them in the second half to lead NC State to victory. So to do it against an elite defense, against top competition in a game that doesn't just matter for boosting your ranking, but also it's a marquee win that's the type of win that would allow NC State to possibly host here. And we know how important that is with the home court advantage we were just talking about. And it puts you further up in the ACC standings. And this isn't, the ACC that we grew up with, Jeff. So this isn't, you play home and away. You get one shot at these games. And now NC State has the head-to-head. So there was a lot on the line on Monday night. And to see Isaiah have a game like that, just put the team on her back and carried them offensively. And just putting together the last couple years for her to see her growth. We talked about that last time I was with you. She did it again, Jeff. She did it again.
Pulse of the Pack is sponsored in part by Coca-Cola. Crisp, refreshing, and irresistibly tasty. Is Coke Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Try and decide.
For 48 straight years, Ford F-Series have been the best-selling trucks in America. We got here by engineering breakthrough technology, redefining built Ford tough, and never settling for second best. But what's really made Ford F-Series the #1 selling trucks in America is you. Ford F-Series, built Ford tough.
Mr. Wolf, you're all set. Complete perimeter protection installed and monitored 24/7.
No matter who you root for, we can all identify with the best in smart home security. CPI Security is the official security and smart home company of NC State Athletics. CPI Security. Identify yourself.
From protecting your teeth and gums, to restoring your smile, to sponsoring your local team, Tar Heel Periodontics is the premier periodontal practice of the Triangle community. Our team of highly skilled doctors provide dental care as individual as you are, working with you to build a personalized treatment plan to create the beautiful, healthy smile of your dreams. With offices conveniently located across the Triangle and Central North Carolina, you're never far from the Tar Heel Periodontics family. Visit our website or call now.
This segment of Pulse of the Pack is presented by Coca-Cola. You made a great point about Duke's defense, and sitting courtside, the physicality in which they brought was pretty impressive. I mean, they were very physical, and I think in the second quarter, it took NC State aback a little bit. We saw some turnovers that they normally don't make, but in the second half, when a team only gives up 49 points in the ACC, as Duke's defense did, and NC State scored 57 in the second half, it wasn't all Isaiah James either.
No, it was a team effort. The ball movement was there, and there were a number of heroines in that game. Whether it was Lorena Wu coming off the bench, and she had 6 points in the fourth quarter alone, had some huge momentum plays. Madison Hayes, Zoe Brooks, Sanaya Rivers, of course. I mean, you pretty much just rattle off the roster. Everyone made some key plays in that game against a legitimate top 10 team.
Let's talk a little bit about Awu, because I think we've seen Trieger be the starter the last 10 games. I think they've kind of solidified and feel comfortable with her being the starter. If you look back to the Syracuse game, Awu came in and gave them some big minutes in the second half, and this was a very remnant of that. But West stuck with the hot hand with Awu, and I think it was sitting in the crowd or watching in the crowd, anytime she would do something, woo, and so I was sitting there and I'm thinking, so you're not going to remember this song, but it was a song back, I believe it was in the 80s, Jeffrey Osborne, called the Woo Woo song. So I think we're going to adapt a woo with the Woo Woo song. So Google it, look it up. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa is how it goes. So we can make that happen with Lorraine.
I don't know anything about that, Jeff, but you sound good. I will say this, though. You're right. That was very reminiscent of the Syracuse game. And something that Ernie Myers and I were talking about on the radio in post-game was just, this NC State team was tested a lot early and took some top 10 losses in November. And the real question at that time was, how much growth could we see in the front court because they're so young, and how quickly could they mature? And this Wolfpack team has lost one game since the month of November. And the growth from November to the first game of February against Duke, and you see the bigs playing so much better. And again, everybody contributed, and that's been a big difference for this team that has continued to rattle off, win after win.
I think that's the position that we all talked about in the preseason. What's the post going to be like? I know Wes was concerned about it. And it may not be one individual that has been able to come in and solidify it, although Trieger being the starter has kind of done that, but they've done it by committee. With Collier coming in and getting some minutes as well.
Right, absolutely. And so all three post players have done that. And, River Baldwin, who's playing overseas, she was in the building on Monday night as well. And so, Coach Moore has talked about that a couple of times about, I miss Mimi Collins. I miss River Baldwin because that front court had a big part to do with that Final Four run. But like you said, it really is a by committee effort. And we have seen the ceiling for all three of those players is very high. And they are continuing to grow and grow. And the exciting thing is that they're still just scratching the surface. Mm-hmm. So from November to February, you see a lot of growth, and there's still some time to get better. And you would expect that by mid-March, when you get to postseason, they're likely going to be a lot better than they are right now. You not only call women's basketball, you do every other sport here on campus, including volleyball. Now, you've kind of seen this program when Luca Slabe took over. Mm-hmm. He is now working at USA Volleyball, made the sudden change. And NC State made the immediate hire, promoting associate head coach Megan Wargo-Kearney into the head coaching seat, her opportunity to now lead the program. Where do you think she can do with the program, kind of, as I mentioned to her, taking the baton from Luca? Yeah, taking the baton. It's really an exciting time for NC State volleyball because this was a team that was continuing to build. 2 years ago, they had a really good case, probably should have gotten into the NCAA tournament. And they got left out. They got snubbed. They were on the wrong side of the bubble. And so last year was all about getting into the NCAA tournament. Well, they did that. And so, Coach Slabe leaves to go work with USA Volleyball and have some more time with his family. And like you said, immediate hire. And so excited for NC State volleyball because they get some continuity, right? Mm-hmm. They've been having success and continuing to build. And Coach Megan is now taking the head coaching job, and Jeremiah Ganadakis is going to return as well as an assistant. So you have some very well-liked assistant coaches, and now the head coach is Megan Wargo-Kearney. And so this is going to be a new team, but it's nice to have that continuity.
Bryant wins it for the Wolfpack. In front of a program record in attendance. They have now won 6 consecutive home ACC matches. They beat Carolina, they beat Duke for a winning weekend at home.
Mr. Wolf, you're all set. Complete perimeter protection installed and monitored 24/7.
No matter who you root for, we can all identify with the best in smart home security. CPI Security is the official security and smart home company of NC State Athletics. CPI Security. Identify yourself.
For 48 straight years, Ford F-Series have been the best-selling trucks in America. We got here by engineering breakthrough technology, redefining built Ford tough, and never settling for second best. But what's really made Ford F-Series the #1 selling trucks in America is you. Ford F-Series. Built Ford tough.
From protecting your teeth and gums, to restoring your smile, to sponsoring your local team, Tar Heel Periodontics is the premier periodontal practice of the Triangle community. Our team of highly skilled doctors provide dental care as individual as you are, working with you to build a personalized treatment plan to create the beautiful, healthy smile of your dreams. With offices conveniently located across the Triangle and Central North Carolina, you're never far from the Tar Heel Periodontics family. Visit our website or call now.
Well, she really needs no introduction. Megan Wargo-Kearney has been with the volleyball program for the last 5 years as associate head coach and recruiting coordinator, but you got a new title, the head coach of NC State volleyball. How has that hit you?
It's weird. I have caught myself many times saying associate head and then having to drop the head coach over the last 6 weeks. But it's hit me, and I think the neatest thing is I know where this program was 5 years ago, and I know where it is now. And we had our first team meeting 2 weeks ago, and I told the girls, hey, this is where we were, this is where we ended last year, and we're not going back there. So these are the things we're gonna do to keep along that path.
To someone that may not understand where the program was when you got here to where it is now, explain the process and the steps you guys have taken to get to the NCAA tournament last year.
When we arrived 2019, we were roughly in the mid 150s in the RPI, let's say. So ratings, power index, where they rank generally in Division I volleyball. To feel confident to go to the NCAA tournament, you have to be in that top 35 to get an at-large bid. So we ended the last year right in that window. Every year we incrementally have gotten better. And as we've grown this program, we've grown in our recruiting and brought in some different types of athletes than we've had in here, along with the teaching and the systems that we implemented over the last 5 years.
You take the baton from Luca Slabe, who was the head coach here. He's now working for USA Volleyball. What are your hopes taking the baton from Luca, and what did you learn from him that can help you as a head coach?
Every day there's something I do that I think of him. You know, I don't know that there's many things I do that don't remind me of Luca and how we built this thing together. Number one, no decision was ever too small. Everything was important. And he did a wonderful job of always involving myself and Jeremiah and the rest of our staff, or just one of us. He always included us in those decisions. It also, looking back, he was prepping me for this next step. The pieces of our program, the foundations that we're gonna teach, that our gym is a laboratory that we're gonna learn in, and never is that gonna go away. I think that's always gotta be the foundation of our program. Also, communication. We're number one. We are organized to a T, and we're going to communicate to a T with our athletes.
One of the things I noticed about you watching practice is you talked about communication. You immediately, after a play or something, you wanted to instruct the student athlete right then, not wait and go look at the film. Why is it critical, do you believe, to instantly be able to tell someone what they did right or what they did wrong?
We have 5 new athletes in the gym right now and only returned 9 with only 2 or 3 of them having any sort of significant playing time. So right now, teaching is really important in our practice, catching them in that moment and catching them when they do things right, and more so than catching them maybe right now when they do things wrong. I think that us doing that is important. I think that maybe last year we would have pockets of time within practice, so we would actually call it uncoaching. We'd step back and we'd just let them figure it out. But we had a pretty veteran group, so I think there was moments for that. There's still gonna be moments for that with this team. I keep telling them as a joke that I want them to learn to play with their hair down. I want them to play without fear of always having that feedback or fear of always being judged. They need to learn how to just play the game, like a little bit of street ball, right? They gotta just sometimes figure it out on their own.
You've mentioned communication, you mentioned connectivity with your student athletes. I want to read a quote from former setter Naomi Cabela when she said about you, One of the things that makes Megan so special is how effortlessly she balances seeing us both as players and as people. She understands that we're human, and that perspective has been instrumental in shaping the culture of this program. I think that's one of the biggest compliments you could receive as a head coach. Why do you feel it is important to not just grow them as volleyball players, but also people as well?
I texted Naomi after I saw that and told her she brought tears to my eyes. So it was really special that she said that. It's just part of me, who I am, and I know that the number one thing a coach earns is the trust of their players. And if I'm going to get on them in practice, they need to know that I have their back at the end of the day. I've always been that way, but I think probably, especially over the past month, I've tried to be even more intentional about those relationships. So each week I'm grabbing a coffee with a player, I'm taking somebody to lunch, I'm going to be broke by the end of the semester. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But
more money in the coffee budget,
more money
please.
in the coffee budget, please. But just finding opportunities and ways to connect with them outside the gym. I have something written at the top of my notebook right now that says, "Who needs me today? Who needs me today?" And that could be texting somebody on our staff, texting one of our players, just, "How was this? How was your test? How's your grandma doing? How's whatever is going on in their lives?" It's just so important to me.
Recruiting is the lifeblood of a program. You've done amazing things on the recruiting circuit. What do you feel is your strength in recruiting, and what do you look for in a player? Maybe not just the physical part of it, but the entirety of who you're going to have as a student athlete.
Yeah, recruiting gives me juice, I like to say. That's what I love talking to people. I love connecting with people. I like hearing people's stories. So I keep a big list of clubs. I keep in touch with high schools, and we make sure we have a lot of outreach to them. So I think that as recruiting has evolved over the past few years, the basis of that is not. At the end of the day, it's who you know, who you can connect with, and finding those people. There's metrics, right? Do they touch this? Are they this high? Do they jump well? Whatever. Are they a good athlete? Sure, there's those metrics. But I'm like a detective in recruiting. I'm going to go to high school coach. I'm going to go to club coach. I'm going to go to counselor in high school and find out really who that athlete is as a human being.
Final question. What is your vision for the future of this program?
Number one, to keep recruiting young women that stand for this wolf on our chest. You know, we talk every day, the wolf never comes off, and you've got to represent that and what that means. Number two, to always make the NCAA tournament, to be a mainstay. NC State, they're in the NCAA tournament. To be in that upper third of the ACC, which has not gotten any easier, adding the teams we added in the past year. And to go deep into the NCAA tournament. I think those are all important pieces to contain success and to continue rising this program to where we feel like we've gotten to.
It's been kind of a natural progression from 5 years ago to now, but you're now in the head coaching seat. Congratulations,
Thank
Coach.
you.
Always good to spend time with you.
Yes, thank you, Jeff.
Pulse of the Pack is sponsored in part by Carolina Ford Dealers. See your Carolina Ford dealer, proud sponsor of NC State Athletics.
For 48 straight years, Ford F-Series have been the best-selling trucks in America. We got here by engineering breakthrough technology, redefining built Ford tough, and never settling for second best. But what's really made Ford F-Series the #1 selling trucks in America is you. Ford F-Series, built Ford tough.
All right, Mr. Wolf, you're all set. Complete perimeter protection installed and monitored 24/7.
No matter who you root for, we can all identify with the best in smart home security. CPI Security is the official security and smart home company of NC State Athletics. CPI Security. Identify yourself.
From protecting your teeth and gums, to restoring your smile, to sponsoring your local team, Tar Heel Periodontics is the premier periodontal practice of the Triangle community. Our team of highly skilled doctors provide dental care as individual as you are, working with you to build a personalized treatment plan to create the beautiful, healthy smile of your dreams. With offices conveniently located across the Triangle and Central North Carolina, you're never far from the Tar Heel Periodontics family. Visit our website or call now.
Pulse of the Pack is sponsored in part by Coca-Cola. Crisp, refreshing, and irresistibly tasty. Is Coke Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Try and decide.
Let's turn our attention to men's basketball, and I really want to get your take on this because the men, go West young men. They're going out on that West Coast swing that you guys did earlier. They will play Cal on Wednesday night at 11 p.m. I don't know if I'll see the end of that game. And then they'll turn around and play Stanford Saturday at 7 p.m., hit a red eye, come back to Raleigh, get back here on Sunday morning, and then they'll host Louisville next Wednesday. How much does that trip take out of you when you come back?
It's a tough trip. It is tougher coming back, or for those West Coast teams, it's tougher when they go east initially, right? Just the adjustment. And so there's a little bit of an adjustment period. And I don't have the updated stat, but I know I had a stat from about a week or so ago, and it was on the men's and women's side. There had been 16 of those trips to that point. And in the first leg, the second leg, you can usually adjust by. Then you're talking about playing Cal and then Stanford, right? Once you've been out there for 4 or 5 days, you can adjust a little better. But in the first leg at the time, teams that had made the trip were 1-15. And it's both directions, right? It's Cal and Stanford coming east or vice versa. It's just a tough trip. And, you know, NC State women's basketball has only lost 1 game in the ACC, and it was at Haas Pavilion against Cal on the first leg of the trip. So that's going to be a real challenge for Coach Keats and his team.
It's a new era in the ACC, and this week, NC State will play 2 Atlantic Coast Conference games in the state of California. And all things being the way they are, Coach Keats, and under the circumstances, this might this be a good time for a change of scenery?
You hope so. You know, it is a long trip. I realized that, you know, looking at this thing, I didn't think it was for some reason in my mind, but it's about a 5.5, 6 hour trip, and certainly we're grateful for our partners as our West, but you just now with the reality of it with me is you get a chance to realize that you are in the ACC as a guy who grew up from you know, Lynchburg, Virginia, and I am going to the West Coast to play a game and excited about it. I mean, 2 great programs out there, great academic school, great basketball programs are doing a really good job, and we're traveling out there. So it's just one of those aha moments for me, like, all right, we're getting on a plane and we're going to play, you know, because the last time, you know, most of the time when I go out to the West Coast, it's for MTE or something like that, not an ACC game.
You know, we only do it once. They're doing it 5 times, you know, back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, if I'm complaining about the one trip, think about the, you know, Cal and Stanford who have to come across and play so many games over here.
Can you imagine, though? I mean, having to do it 4 or 5 times, it's got to be a disadvantage, isn't it?
Well, I don't. You want to say maybe to get used to it, but I don't know that you ever get used to traveling that long. You know, it's tough. But listen, this is where we're at with college basketball, and you know, like I told you before, we're excited. We're excited to have those 2 and SMU in our league, and that's where we're at right now.
We got softball starting this week on Thursday. We got baseball starting next Friday at Doak. So a lot is going on. And, oh, by the way, Super Bowl Sunday.
No pregame show for you this year. We're playing at Tallahassee earlier on Super Bowl Sunday. So make sure you check that broadcast out.
I will be tuning in to Andrew Sanders on the radio and Ernie Myers and watching on television before I consume the Super Bowl.
We'll be flying back from Tallahassee, hopefully celebrating a win, and probably miss the first quarter or so.
I didn't mean to bring up a sore subject. You can't watch the Super Bowl.
No, that's fine.
You have a job to do, right?
That's right.
Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in. See you next week.